This session is going to be super chill, very relaxed, and it's about crafting a great CS program, specifically from a student's perspective. So I'll give a little bit of background about myself. Um, I'm a software engineering intern at Replit. I am a first year university student. I've done a couple of projects in the past, hacked away at a bunch of things, told some stories, worked on a startup, the whole shebang. But yeah, in general, I have a lot of thoughts about like a great CS program, and I've been lucky enough to be in a really good one in high school. And so this will kind of be a presentation on that and some different unique selling points that you can have as a teacher to implement into your own classroom and to make your classes really good. So before we start, I want to hear what yours are. So what is one belief or principle that you hold that most other teachers don't? Um, and so this could be like you're super casual with kids, or anything like that. Let's actually put it in the chat. It's really good to like share ideas, mingle, let them spread out. So I'll select a couple to kind of share with the audience. But yeah, throw them in the chat, guys. What's something unique that you do as a teacher? Anyone can code if you are willing to do it. Yeah, that's true. Nice. I like these. Everyone is welcome. Yes, for sure. CS is more than just coding. Very much agree. I like that. Make a lot of, aha, what a beautiful one. Make a lot of mistakes and model the learning process. Video games are a good way to learn things. Code plus art. Running students to your family and we work together. Yes. Okay, these are perfect. These are great. Awesome. Okay. Okay, these are awesome. Yeah, this makes me excited to get into the talk. But yeah, I guess we can begin. You guys had some really good ones. This is me. And although I'd probably like love to talk about myself for the entire presentation, this is Mr. Saeed. He's a CS teacher at the school called Westwood Community High School in this very remote location in the world called Fort McMurray. It's in northern Canada, Alberta. The population is like 70,000. The school has 600 kids going from grade 7 to 12. It's really tiny. Um, we'll get back to this in a second, but I just want to show you another picture of me again. And this is Mr. Landry, the robotics teacher at the same school. And together, these two teachers did something really marvelous. They took this tiny little school in pretty much the middle of nowhere, and they turned it into one of the best CS programs in the world. Their students got millions and millions of dollars in scholarships. They give talks across the world. They partner with giant companies like Amazon and Apple. They've received like awards from like the national government. It's something that's really inspiring, all from this like very remote city. Um, and I kind of wanted to go over like their unique selling points as teachers and what they believe in, kind of show them to you, and hopefully maybe you'll be able to pick something up and implement in your class or in your CS program. The first being, don't lecture. We'll start off a bit controversial, but I know we all understand that students learn at different speeds, and this is a problem in education in general. But specifically for CS, we are at the liberty of having so many different resources for students to learn at their own pace. We have YouTube, Codecademy, Replit for beginners and for advanced people. And so once we start implementing this notion of not lecturing, at least for not too long, we can be a guide as teachers. We can answer questions, introduce people to topics, and the benefits are really awesome because now students are first learning at their own pace. It's very encouraging and supportive. The second is that students now are learning how to parse the internet, a key skill for anything tech related and honestly the entire world in general. And lastly, the big one, I know you guys as teachers love this, it saves you a lot of time, which teachers don't have in abundance. And it's really easy for a student to be saying, don't lecture. I understand this. If there's an exam syllabus and you're the one that's making the exam, try project-based assignments. Try marking based on projects instead of an exam. Or if it's a standardized test, trust your students. if you give them the resources and the passion for whatever they're doing, they'll naturally just excel in this field without the worry of getting marks. Because remember, your job shouldn't be to get them a good mark unless they ask for it, but it should be to make them curious and sharp and witty and determined. I also wanted to say, as I go along, if you guys have any questions, opinions, anything, comments, if you guys just want to like throw your favorite quote in the chat, like at any time, just go for it. I think it's pretty cool to always have an active chat. So yeah, go for that as well. But moving on, now that you have all this extra time from not lecturing, now's the time to be a resource aggregator. There's tons and tons and tons of resources out there for education programs, for tech education programs in general. A lot of them are very hard to find, but now you have extra time from not lecturing. So dig in deep, do some research, find those grants, those internships for your students, partnerships, those programs. And a very, very key driving factor of a lot of students is competition or awards. So start some clubs, market your local science fair, find competitions. As a teacher, your job is now to introduce topics and be a resource aggregator and share them with your students, because that's really what's going to get them very, very far. I wonder what is the most effective method of sharing those with high school students. Hyperdocs. Yes, Hyperdocs is really cool. I guess the main thing to share with is to share with your own students. There is a small plug for Replit, something called the Curriculum Jam, which is something that Replit is hosting, and hopefully, I guess the co-host can put a link to that in the chat somewhere. But Replit's hosting this thing where teachers like you all can submit your ideas for curriculum, the resources you use, and share between all the teachers, and the teachers can naturally just direct it to their students. So that'd be pretty awesome. Nice. Thanks, Brittany. Okay, let's move on. The next one is creative assignments. So something that Mr. Landry and Mr. Saeed did very often is they would offer up alternate assignments. So if, for example, they were teaching something like Python Turtle, but I found that too meticulous or boring, they created a space where I could tell them. And they would tell me, look, I'm free to work on anything else as long as it's the same or harder difficulty. And what I ended up doing was I ended up spending all of my class time making an AR ecosystem for dementia patients. And luckily it got some PR, it got some more attention to our district and our technology program. I'd call that a win-win. I genuinely learned a lot, and the school benefited from it as well. And I'm not saying that don't mark anything, but I would rather say mark like it's gym class. A lot of kids get caught up on the mark side of things, optimizing for whatever will get them the highest mark. But in gym class, you mark based on effort, not on output. So refrain from fostering a very marks-based mentality within your students. Instead, mark creativity, persistence, grit. CS is a very, very, very creative field. And so if you're encouraging that through the way that you mark, it would be very beneficial for your students. Mark like, yes. Focus on the grade more than creativity. Exactly. And so explain to them, right? Be rewarding of creativity, and explain to them, listen, if you're creative, you'll naturally get higher marks too. Like I 100% got a higher mark on my dementia project than what I would have gotten in Python Turtle. So yeah. And now that your class is really laxed, really chill, your classroom could become the new spot. And what I mean by this is teachers can open up their classrooms for students during lunchtime or after school. And this is a place of very, very, very great serendipity. Because if you put a bunch of students together to chat about whatever they want, eat their lunch, and they're around a bunch of tech, a bunch of computers, naturally they will be curious. And maybe, just maybe, along the way, they'll learn a couple of things. And now that people are chilling in your class, you're marking like it's gym class, this is the cliche part, but it's very important. It's time to be a friend as a teacher. I'm not saying putting put in more time, but the marking can wait till another day. A lot of the time, talking to a student about non-school things is what bridges the connection between a student and a teacher. It instills trust, and this is where real gaps and passions in education light up. So talk to your students about how their weekend was, what they did. One-on-one would be amazing if you have time. Something that Mr. Saeed and Mr. Landry used to do all the time was just sit there right after they intro a topic and call people over and say, hey, how's your weekend? What'd you do? And since it was very personal as well, people just felt attached to them. And that's why I'm giving a whole presentation about them. This next one is very, very important. The value of publishing content for education programs will compound over time. If your program is awesome, if your students are awesome, if you're awesome, share it with the world. And I promise you, the world will smile back in your direction. I can't remember how many times this has opened up doors for my teachers in high school. Sharing what you're doing on Twitter, sharing your students' accomplishments on Facebook or things like that will get parents excited. It'll give you some great PR, and it'll start getting people to reach out to you. Because I know as hardworking teachers, you guys are here anyways. You guys are reaching out to people in general. But if you're starting to publish content yourself, people will start reaching out to you. And a bonus factor is that if your students are publishing content, the value there is just 10 times as better, because now you can show what your students are doing to everyone. Just gonna check the chat. Yes. Great points by everyone. Perfect. But honestly, this is pretty much it. These are the unique selling points that my high school teachers employed in my time during high school, and that's why they were able to create such a successful program out of what on paper doesn't look that exciting. And so now is the time, if you're ever embarrassed to ask your students a question, or you didn't have time or anything like that, I'll be the representative. Go ahead, ask me any questions. I'll try and do my best to answer them with a little bit of hindsight since I'm in university now. Yeah, let's go for it if you have any questions. Okay, what are the 3 things you should be covered in every high school CS program? Okay, this is really cool. So the first things first is you should get technologies that have a lot of hype behind them, and teach from projects first. So it's not necessary that you need to teach classes or constructors to every single high school CS student, but teach them about what it's like to, yes, yeah, exactly. So start off with a project, ask your students something that they really, really enjoy. Maybe brainstorm with them about what would be really cool to create. For example, if I like shoes, maybe a Replit bot to find out when shoes are on sale. And from there, you can kind of trickle down. And as a teacher, you exactly know what things you can break this problem down into little bite-sized informational lessons to teach students as you go from there. So in general, this is the case. I do think as a high school student, web development is also always really cool. It's really fast, quick dopamine hits, a good feedback loop. So if you wanted to teach that in a high school CS program, it'd be pretty awesome. Did you have peers who transitioned from being disinterested, disengaged with CS courses to wanting to succeed? What, in your opinion, changed their mind if you had those students as peers? If you have a specific story, that's even better. So, in my opinion, the thing that transitions them from being disinterested is just the passion of the teacher. If you're just constantly talking and smiling as a teacher in a class, if your peers are doing well and having fun in a subject around them, it just naturally creates hype around it. So I remember there was a couple of incumbents in my class who were just really into CS to begin with. And since the teachers really enjoyed talking to them, since they were always doing really well, since they always had something cool to talk about, naturally, me as a peer of them, I wanted to kind of engage in this technology program as well. Any specific stories? I guess I was pretty disinterested with technology at one point in my life. But it was genuinely just peers being super excited, my teachers being super excited about this. What are your thoughts on phones, social media, games, and CS? Is it a distraction or a benefit to learning CS? Um, I think honestly, so the class that I was in was really, really cool, and the fact that the teacher would let you go on your phone at any time. There was a very, very, very good sense of trust that if you're on your phone, you're doing it because it was important or because you didn't need to pay attention at this time. Also, naturally, it makes sense to encourage usage of the phone, at least the investigation of how phones, social media, or games work. And usually that acts like as a fire for people who get into tech. I remember being on my phone like for half of my computer science class, but it was still really, really fun because I was always just looking at some random article that I found or a blog post or maybe even watching a YouTube video about like the next cool tech thing. So try and make it interesting. But honestly, I think they're a good thing, and you should encourage their usage in your classes. Okay, what are your thoughts on group projects and pair programming? Individual programming projects for the various types of learners in the classroom. Awesome. Well, it's a pretty easy solution. In general, life does require teamwork, so maybe sprinkle in 1 or 2 mandatory team projects in there somewhere. But just tell your students you can work with a partner, you can work with some friends, or you can just do it on your own. It's something that doesn't seem that intuitive. It seems like there should be intentionality between whether you're assigning individual projects or if you're assigning group projects. But oftentimes we want kids to have fun while they're learning, especially in CS where there's still a long ways to go after high school. This is kind of the approach that I would take. Anna Lemke has some interesting research on phone addiction and engagement in CS, specifically at Stanford. That's really cool. I'll have to take a look into Anna Lemke. Yeah, that's awesome. Is there any other questions, or did I fully answer everyone's questions? If I didn't, let me know. I can go into that a bit more. How did you decide which branch of CS to pursue after high school? It is a very, very nebulous thing, and this is your job as the guide. I'm personally still wandering as a student, but I can say that I have been able to wander a bunch of different fields and intersections that I was very interested in. So be that teacher that finds those cool technologies and branches for their students. Take a week and introduce the concept of AI to your students, even if they don't understand the coding principles behind it. The logic that's there is still understandable to people in high school or in university, even in middle school, honestly. Or maybe like Web3 and cryptocurrency is becoming very, very popular recently. Take a week, explore that with your students. Or maybe like that's something that was really cool is I enrolled in an esports program at one point, but I was really, really interested in networking. And so the teachers found a good online resource to teach networking and ethical hacking, and they went towards that and did 2 or 3 weeks on ethical hacking, which is really awesome. I would highly recommend to teach ethical hacking if you guys have the opportunity. But yeah, that's kind of students deciding what branch of CS to go into is a very personalized thing. But the thing that you can do to help them is introduce them to as many branches as possible. Cert code for this session. I'm unsure what that means. Maybe you can clarify. Did I have a favorite project? So my favorite project was a smartwatch application I made to detect if someone has like a heart disease or is going into cardiac arrest. And the reason I was able to make it was honestly because my teachers were super, super lax with me using my class time however I wanted. And so I would just spend my time just hacking away at this project. I ended up getting some like awards for it too, so that was really cool. Yeah, my teachers are probably, hopefully they're pretty stoked. I invited them. I don't know if they're here. How did I secure the internship? Okay, Awesome. So that's a great question. My teacher actually introduced Replit to me when I was in grade 10. I've been using it ever since. And naturally, as a person, I like sharing stories with the world. And so I publish content. I have a Twitter. I post, and I found Replit through that they were hiring. I reached out. I sent a message, and we went from there. And luckily, I got the internship. And so the lesson to learn from there is the bottleneck is often knowing where to look. And so you can tell your students to possibly look if they have time or explore. But honestly, you as a teacher are very, very, very accustomed to this environment, and you probably have a lot of leads. So be that resource aggregator. Introduce your students to, hey, there might be an internship opportunity here. I'll reach out to them for you if you want, or you can reach out to them and go from there. Awesome. Okay, cool. So if you guys want to reach out to me, this is my email or my Twitter. The alarm keeps going off from when I try to set a reminder for this session. Yeah, here's my email. Here's my Twitter. If you wanna talk to those teachers in that rural place that I was talking about the entire time, I put their Twitter down here as well. Send them a DM. They're super, super kind. They love to chat to all teachers. Trust me, I was there for 3 years. But other than that, I think that's pretty much it. Thanks so much, everyone.